going on, guys? Proof here, and here's part 2 with Korikai going over his Freezeray Messiah deck profile. I know in the last part I remembered / forgot to remind him to talk about the changes he will make to his deck going into the future. So if you want to touch on that real quick, Korikai, the floor is yours.
I'm not exactly sure that would change anything in particular, because I felt like the deck was played optimally. The fact that the deck is more defensive than it is offensive, you don't really want stuff like Awakening Messiah and stuff like that, because they just have really awkward setups that you have to play around. So since GB8 was just announced and late Joker support, hopefully we actually get a keyword that does something.
You might get a second Messiah.
We might get a second Great Pre Messiah so that this dude doesn't just search this guy out. But other than that, I think the deck's pretty solid. I think it's very fun to play.
Yeah. All right, and in this part here, he's going to talk about a couple advanced tactics that he noticed throughout his testing and throughout the course of gameplay in general. And so the floor is yours again.
So these 9 cards in particular, even though this is the same card, are essentially the cards that are the most important in the deck. Your starter is the most important starter that you can play. You have other starters that you can play. You can play the Great Pre-Searcher, so you can dig for Freezeray, but if you whiff, it's a waste of a Counterblast. And it's just, it goes to soul, but you didn't really get anything out of it. You just burnt the Counterblast, so if you're stuck on Alter Ego, you can't use it unless you just YOLO and take damage that you didn't really need to take. This allows you to grab Alter Ego if you're on Freezeray. Freezeray is also important, so I'll just add that there. If you're on Freezeray, if you lock this, you get Alter Ego as opposed to just having to dry check and hope you get it. It adds to soul and allows you to draw cards during your turn. You can play the one from GB03, but it has the same issue as the Great Pre-Searcher, even though it doesn't really have a cost. If you're being conservative and you're on Alter Ego and you lock it, you don't get anything out of it because it doesn't do anything when it unlocks. You have to go -1 to lock one of your cards and lock one of their cards. So it's good for those turns where you want to YOLO and go for Amnesty Messiah when you don't have any other way of going for it because you lock multiple cards. But not only do you give them their resources back, you don't draw for it because you're going for first turn Amnesty. So it has the same problems. It's good with Freezeray because you have no real way to lock on your Freezeray turns unless you go into a Messiah and have stuff like this be online. But other than that, Neon Messiah is probably the best starter that you can have because it's active for all your stride turns. It lets you swap whenever you need to, and adds to soul. And the soul is very important in this deck. Sacrifice Messiah, definitely the best grade one you could ever play. It literally interacts with your entire deck. It interacts with your on stride skill, it interacts with Arrestor Messiah, it interacts with Gravity Well, and it interacts with Dustblade, which I found out in my testing. Dustblade is in here because of the fact that he can swing for extra stages of power, and he gives you that thing which was the bane of my existence when I went for Amnesty and Excelix. So when you go for Amnesty and Excelix, you unlock your entire board, and because you unlock your entire board, you don't get to draw for your GB2, which was kind of the downside for going for this big power swing. But if you go for Dustblade plays, even if you lock something with his skill that didn't seem that important, because you have your Sacrifice Messiahs in the back and they trigger when a card is locked in general, it doesn't matter when a card is locked or who locks it, you can swing for a 16k column and then go up to 22, or you can swing for 22 if you unlock them with Excelix, and you can swing for 28, which is the extra stage of power. And then not only is it an extra stage of power, which makes your opponent guard more, you get to lock these and you get to draw for them at the end of your turn. So not only are you being offensive by making them guard more, you're being defensive because you get to draw for the cards that are unlocking. Not only do you have iterations with all of these cards, you have iterations with your really super fabulous Dollar G guard. I made a misplay in the deck profile and said that Maxwell works with Maxwell for whatever reason. Meant this guy. But when you lock a card with Maxwell, you gain +5. Because you are locking a card, and these cards don't care if you're locking a card on your opponent's side of the board, or your side of the board, or who locks it, you can lock these two and essentially make your Vanguard cross-ridden. So if you're playing against a deck that goes Vanguard first and you lock these, you can make it so that if you have 2 of these on the board, you lock them, you give your Vanguard +6, and then your opponent's rear guard columns are only 16k. Not only can they not hit you, but if they get a trigger, it's just a 5k shield. The draw trigger is here because it's more important than the crit in my opinion, solely because it's an act skill charge and it goes to anybody, as opposed to being an on-swing charge where you kind of have your full board set up and you don't really have space to play the crit unless you don't have much. Also, it makes it so that if you have this column, it swings for 21 as opposed to just 18, which is a magic number, which of course is more guard. Arrestor is here because Arrestor is basically the entire deck. The deck outside of Sacrifice Messiah relies on you playing this and just being able to not overextend for cost on your Excelix and your Amnesty turns. He's costless. He just does everything. His only downside is that he's crit a turn that he's placed, but if he was every turn, he'd be absolutely snapped and Bushiroad would be like sued or something because the card would be too broken. The crit is here because, again, this crit is here because it's more important, again, than Blink Messiah. Blink Messiah legitimately just says, if you want to be greedy and you need more soul, like emergency soul, then you can play it. It's more so for your turns where you kind of have empty space floating and you don't really care, and you just kind of need that +5 to push for, oh, you PG or GG because it's bigger. This crit is here because of the fact that it recycles, and it's your only recyclable crit, and it's more so here because you have that end game where you draw all the cards in your deck to kind of stall, and then when your deck is really low, you can just recycle these every turn and have more dangerous drive checks with your Excelix and your Amnesty plays because you'll always be able to get it back. Even though you need a Star Gator to lock additional card, you don't really care because you have all this. So this allows you to keep your resources there. It lets you not possibly deck out. I mean, you'll deck out eventually because you'll triple drive and draw a card, even though you put it all back unless you just don't stride, which by that point, you probably don't have any strides left. So you're just swinging for twin drive with decent columns, but they're crits, and crits are basically what win you the game because it's faster damage. Gravity Well is here because it's a free lock and she gains power with the draw. She's 16k by herself. With Sacrifice Messiah, she's 16k by herself. She's not as integral to the deck when you're not playing Awakening Messiah, but because of the fact that she swings for a huge number of lots of cards for free, and on top of that is active when you don't have a Messiah Vanguard like these two, you can use it in conjunction with Freezeray to lock this and get your alter ego for practically nothing and add for soul and still swing for a decent number, even if she's by herself. So, not absolutely integral, but still very good for the deck in general. Dustblade, because lockdown rear guards. This card was kind of ditched to the wayside when we got Arrestor because he basically does the same thing in the sense that you lock down one of your opponent's rear guards if you so choose to. But outside of the interaction with Sacrifice Messiah, the reason I put him in here is because of the fact that you don't really have any way to lock down your opponent's front row unless you're going for a Trans-Elf Messiah. So it was easier to conserve your hand when they just had no front row as opposed to just having that one rear guard be down when you're at higher damage. And that one rear guard could be the difference between you burning your entire hand and having nothing and having to go for a desperate play to try and win the game other than being conservative, just because of the fact that you have to worry about that extra swing and RNG on dry checks is always a thing. And then Alter Ego is the guy that does everything. When you're not on Freezeray, he's your way to dig for cards. He's your way to lock down your opponents. He makes your strides easier to go into. He lets you save your stuff when you're going into Trans-Elf Messiah, so you still have rear guards to swing with, so it's not like you're compromising your board at all. He just is the entire deck. Well, not the entire deck. Well, all these cards together are the entire deck. But he is what saves you when Freezeray is no longer a thing, because once you hit 4 or 5 damage, you essentially have compromised your stall play, and you can't really afford to be on Freezeray anymore, because again, RNG is a thing. And when you're at 4 to 5, if you're at 4, you literally have one lock, so they get that free chip damage in, that you can't guard Vanguard without blocking that, and you can't like risk a secondary damage without being able to heal out. You can't take the swing, so you have to guard it. So 4 to 5 is that danger zone where it's like, if you can guard Vanguard, then at least if they don't get a trigger, you can stop their rush, but that's more often where you want to be on Alter Ego. When you're on that threshold, you can go into Spaghetti, because everybody likes Spaghetti. This card is your Savior. This card allows you to do one of two things. Not only do you stall the entire board, but you get to draw for all those cards that are locked. By that point, if you haven't already been on Alter Ego, you have a crap ton of soul. You have your 1-2 free ride because you will have used Freezeray. You will have Neon and Messiah because you will use his skill to grab this guy out. So you have 4 soul. So even if you don't draw for any of your rear guards because you saved them with Alter Ego and you have this guy on the board, you draw for all your opponent's Vanguard, all opponent's rear guards. So all you have to do is worry about the Vanguard swing. You draw a crap ton of cards. You draw into these, you draw into these, you draw into these. You draw into all these integral pieces that you have available to you. And then you just play the game as normal while being able to stall out because you have the ability to lock down their front row. You have the ability to lock down their front row. You have the ability to swing at them for magic numbers. You have the ability to crit them. You have the ability to put all these pieces together to completely always have offense and defense completely balanced all at the same time.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add before signing off?
I'll just do a public service announcement.
Oh man, here we go. Here we go, getting a rant for free.
So, for the people that are upset that the card was reprinted, you can't not have seen this coming. You can't just have assumed that Elysia was going to be the only card that would have got reprinted because waifus are a thing, and just be like, well, you know, I'm going to collect all these amnesties and all these next stages and all these Gaga strides because value. Bushiroad don't care about value. They don't care about you being competitive. They don't care about you paying for your college tuition. They don't care about you paying for lunch every day. They just want people to play their game. They want people to watch their show. They want the people that are in the show to get support, which is why this subtype is even a thing. When this card comes out as a rare, or not a rare, but
Rare
foiling, which means it's about to look ugly as all sin, like this thing.
Does it have rare pull rate or is it still GR pull rate?
It's GR pull rate.
Okay, but still more accessible because it's reprinted regardless.
Yeah. So, this card is still integral. The card will still be expensive. It's not the end of the world. It will be more affordable. It will be widely more available.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing. It's not the end of the world because you can't sell a playset of amnesties for like an insurance payment on your car. Like,
stop it.
Cut it out.
That everything?
Yeah, that's basically everything.
All right, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this second parter of the 2-parter. And until next time, guys, peace. Be easy.
Bye.